Hello, and welcome to the We the Created podcast, episode 3. What our podcast aims to do is to showcase music that we like that you're probably not hearing on the radio airwaves. We'll be interviewing musicians, poets, artists, writers, and anyone we think that you should get to know better. Then we like to end our shows with discussion or study that can enlighten you and help you to grow in the Lord. My name is Joshua, and I am super happy to be here for episode 3 of the podcast. I've been out for a bit, and I apologize for that, but I had an emergency appendectomy, and then also the birth of my second child has all happened in the last couple of weeks. So it's been crazy hectic to say the least, but God is so good in allowing me to be back, and I feel like a very blessed man to be here and able to do the podcast. Like I had mentioned, this show is going to be fantastic. My buddy and We the Created poet, Jacob Martinez, we know him here as Jacob the Created, is going to be coming to studio to sit down and talk with me about what's going on in his life, his new EP that will be released very soon, and what the future holds for him in his ministry. All the songs for this week's podcast are going to be from the Humble Beast family. Please check out their website, www.humblebeast.com, and go and support their ministries and their artists. The first song, Deep Rest, is by Braille and is off his 2011 album, Native Lands. The second song is from Odd Thomas, titled Television Evangelist, off his 2006 album called The Divine Use of Animosity and Ridicule. Then you'll hear from Theory Hazit and his song Doomsday Insurance from his latest release, 3, which was put out earlier this year. And then closing the music portion of the podcast will be a song by Alert featuring Propaganda and is titled Red Vapors from his 2011 EP, Red Opus 45. It is a hip-hop theme for this podcast, and we're thrilled to present it to you. So without further hesitation, enjoy the show.
Desperation is a dangerous attraction. Isolation is an empty habit. And none of my senses can make sense of it. I'm numb but won't succumb to sensualism. Enter with a sensitive mind. Feel the temperature rise when I'm assembling rhymes. I start to tremble inside. I recognize these words are not mine. I wouldn't be breathing if he didn't put the breath inside. But I still wrestle with pride. Try to steal the glory when the pressure is high. My body is a temple, so access denied. This is the place where the Holy Spirit resides. The risen King died, made me alive, and one day I'll see him with my eyes. And that's how I sleep at night. Deep rest, at peace when I close my eyes. Beat on my chest, faith to believe when it seems impossible, impossible. And that's how I sleep at night. Deep rest, at peace when I close my eyes. Beat on my chest, redeemed from the curse, so I stand firm, waiting for the King to return. I'm just a messenger. I make songs, but I didn't make the message up. I've done wrong, so many times I messed up. Confess my sin, that's when God cleaned my mess up. Acquitted what I committed, forgiven from all my sinning. Written in the beginning, on the cross it was finished. Believing means more than just saying a prayer. It means my life is not my own, yeah, I'm taking it there. You know what time is it, the Lord is coming soon. I like the sound of it, reject all the counterfeits. When the King returns, the whole world stops. There's nothing left to say, stand back and watch. I know he's on his way. For some that means judgment and doom if your soul's not clean. So I'm following Christ through the danger zone, saved by grace through faith alone. And that's how I sleep at night. Deep rest, at peace when I close my eyes. Beat on my chest, faith to believe when it seems impossible, impossible. And that's how I sleep at night. Deep rest, at peace when I close my eyes. Beat on my chest, redeemed from the curse, so I stand firm, waiting for the King to return. believe when it seems impossible, impossible. And that's how I sleep at night. Deep rest, at peace when I close my eyes. Beat on my chest, redeemed from the curse. So I stand firm, waiting for the king to return.
How many of you just like to see miracles? Of course we do. That's inbred in the human nature. We've been playing the charismatic games and there's no power. I want to see the power! You don't have to talk about it when you see it. Today, we talk more about power than producing the power.
I want you to get ready tonight for one of the greatest demonstrations of God's Holy Spirit's power. Are you ready?
I'm your television evangelist. We coming through your idiot box. More crooked than LA cops. I'm your television evangelist. We looking fresh up on your screen. Armani suits and gold rings. I'm your television evangelist. I wave my coat in the air with tattooed lips and pink hair. I'm your television evangelist. I get paid for fake tears, deviously scamming them for years. It's $1 billion industry, a spiritual conspiracy, the pickpocket plan for the promised land, a Catholic simile, a representation of crooked Christian revelation, so-called prophets, profit, a non-profit organization. Church catastrophe, blasphemy, sheep getting seduced by the serpent's seductive flattery, attracted to the peaceful picture that pumps to your coaxial cable, misconception of direction and notion of being more stable. Donation for a blessing? Start second guessing. If you don't know the answers, then ask the questions. Learn for yourself, develop and understand if it's God's plan for when it fall from the breath of a physical man. Fashions from a fashion, wine glasses filled with deadly sips, 14 karat gold, concealer wigs and tattooed lips. Lusting for the loot, using life as a gimmick, mimicking TBN to exploit the children of the imminent. It's capital gain and a righteous plane and a mic just aim. These lyrics to point the blame, cast coins to fan the flame. Arms for the fame, gold for the blood stain, MasterCard to break the chains, offering plate for the pain. I'm alert to the Trinity Broadcast Network and how they flirt with emotions to get finances from all these new converts. They don't love them, that's why they take advantage of them. They pimping sheep using guilt as a means to govern them. You just a Benny Hinn heretic, trying to convict to get chips and trying to get rich off the sick. It's monetary gain derived from mind control. Give a donation of $20 and I'll pray for your soul. We coming through your idiot box, more crooked than LA cops. I'm your television evangelist. We looking fresh up on your screen, Armani suits and gold rings. I'm your television evangelist. I wave my coat in the air with tattooed lips and pink hair. I'm your television evangelist. I get paid for fake tears, deviously scamming them for years.
Verse 6. Then the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail, and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain all ablaze was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood.
A third of the water became bitter. People died sipping from their faucets, lakes and rivers. A fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun, moon and stars were struck, became dark. A third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. Many souls buried in fright. Then I looked and heard a bird crying with a loud word as he flew directly overhead, saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Not like the Black Robo, more like if you don't change your way, you fist the die type. Whoa, for those that dwell on the earth and don't repent for show, witness the blast of the trumpets that the angels blow. The fifth angel blew on his trumpet and a star fell from the heavens. The key to the shaft of the bottomless pit he was given. He opened up the shaft of the bottomless pit. From the shaft rose the smoke like a wildfire was lit. From the smoke came the locusts, rushing the planet. They were given the power to torture and damage only those that didn't have the seal of God on their forehead. Torment them for 5 months. People longing for death. As many times folks try to commit suicide, homicide, genocide, man, they just won't die. Words from the visionary. Look at what the flesh has done. Doomsday is soon enough. Stay tuned, the worst is yet to come.
Again, we're talking about a poetic book heavy on imagery. So we need not think that when these demons attack that they're going to literally look like what we see here. But remember, the reality is always greater than the symbol. So as frightening as what we just read is, the reality is worse.
This means war, economic dysfunction, famine, spiritual darkness, the purpose of judgment to show you he is soft. For years it's been happening, it's happening now. It's written that it will only get worse, so throw in the towel. Ain't nothing comical about demonic numbers are symbolic. Soon you'll be afflicted by the very thing you honor. So love, trust, and obey. Sacrifice for Yahweh. All created things that you trust in, he will annihilate. It's called idolatry. And yes, we're born to die. The first 4 trumpets, boy, your warning shots. Wrath is coming soon. Consider this a trailer, so you can exhale like you use the inhaler. See, that should move you to worship God and tell a friend. And tell your fam that they could be future hell residents. Words from a visionary, boy, it's a messy one. Doomsday is soon enough, stay tuned, the worst is yet to come.
We're denying a creator who, when we were giving the finger to him, gave his own son and his own life for us. See, it's evil to deny your creator at all, but deny that type of creator, to deny that creator, what in the world could be worse? That when you could not go to him because you hated him, he came to you. That when you invited judgment, he took that judgment in your place. That we had every right to utterly wipe out you and everything you love and the entire earth. He instead put on human flesh and allowed himself to be wiped out in your place. That's the God you're denying today.
There's going to be a lot more. This is just the beginning. People lose everything, and they have nothing left to lose. They lose it.
Make me a vacuum, suck out the ash and the black fumes. Make me a tattoo, ink with the gospel, stamp with the anthem for the cosmos. Unearth my values, word in my rear view. That's in my heirloom, surrendering the temporary hoarding of a treasury that won't last. Hustling for more than cash, focus on the forecast. The last shall be first, when the first catch a whiplash. Cast it to the back, when the judgment comes to pass. When gunshots sound in the AM, just another notification. The breath ain't guaranteed, it either is the late show. God keep me faithful, why focus on the sparrow, hold it close to your neck like a capo. Call not to survive, but thrive in this hellhole. Conform to Jehovah, getting sober through the chokeholds. Wrestling with God, tapping out my ugly moments. With Yahweh controlling, I'm an ocean. When I'm open, just an opus for the most high. Cold Joe Houston, just a donkey for this king of mine. Thoroughbred, artist state of mind, like a Clydesdale, but still getting rolled on. Serving through a punchline of preaching Ephesians. Singing grace and high low notes like a reaper. Catching heavy lessons like a Chevy up in the kingdom. But Christ shines on like the L train leaving. Eternity and light that can never be extinguished, y'all. Eternity and light that can never be defeated.
It's like 8 months, 29 days, 50 seconds. At any moment, whole soul could get blown up or gone in a split second. Let the retribution begin. Silly mentality marvels of the mess that they be in. Chase world change instead of chasing whirlwinds. Learn your lesson the day after the world ends. And when tomorrow come calling, eternity is fine. I began with the end in mind. Time so soon gone, examine a tombstone. Whole life is represented in a minus sign. So minuscule, we all catch the vapor. So easily replace you, one flick of the crossfader. Storm of life shake you, fix your gaze on the creator. Eye in the sky, I soon come on the one. People got a grave waiting, burning, hell licking its lips. You worth a few minutes of uncomfortableness. My deepest apologies if I've ever wasted your time with foolishness. Now I'm truly rooted in solid rock we stand. Said the rock not for man, and anything short of that plan is sinking sand. Alert man.
Keep the opus working, motion, time to get it live. We're just the paper on the radar, time to blaze the night. We keep it sober cause these days we are the hellish kind. We hold the line with the vine, time to mobilize. We keep the opus working, motion, time to get it live. We're just the paper on the radar, time to blaze the night. We keep it sober cause these days we are the hellish kind. We hold the line with the vine, time to mobilize. So I raise my right hand, cross my heart and hope to perish. Cause I'm arrogantly married to an inheritance in heaven. Call my vision cryptic cause I'm suicidal. Living life abounding in his image. When I'm intimately in him, I'm an invalid infinite. Reconcile for the remnant. Keep me from the fence, stay relentless. Plus, when my body getting spent, I'm catching interest. Increasing by decreasing like Tetris. Baptized by fire like a phoenix. Designed by the most high to climb over clouds in this life made of paper God-given. I'm flying like a Boeing jet until I'm finished, red ribbon. Rhyming with the hunger of an infant, stay gifted. Solely boasting in the fact that I'm finally free. Got the beam and see the mind when I drive Grand Prix. Till I fade like a phase into this world unseen. Make me a silhouette revealed by the light of your beams and just blaze. We keep the opus working, motion, time to get it live. We're just the paper on the radar, time to blaze the night. We keep it sober cause these days we are the hellish kind. We hold the line with the vine, time to mobilize. We keep the opus working, motion, time to get it live. We're just the paper on the radar, time to blaze the night. We keep it sober cause these days we are the hellish kind. We hold the line with the vine, time to mobilize.
All right, joining me today on the podcast, we have a very special treat for you. It is my great friend, my dear friend, and someone that we know very well here at We the Created, Mr. Jacob Martinez, and we know him as Jacob the Created. Jacob, how are you doing, my friend?
Good. How's it going?
So fantastic to have you on here finally.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And we just got done tracking some psalms, some of your poems for an EP.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
It was. It's challenging to try to get it out exactly how I want it to sound, and just as far as emotion, passion, and I guess I see it and I hear it in my head, and I know exactly how I want it to come out. So it's hard to match that and then hear it back and be like, messed up there and there and there and there and there. But it was fun.
And not to boast, but for my pretty terrible setup here, it actually is turning out a lot better than I ever thought it would turn out.
Yeah, wouldn't have it any other way. Like it's free.
Yeah, in a converted garage.
Yeah.
Who needs Hollywood and big bucks?
DIY.
Yeah, DIY. Well, I obviously asked you to be on here because I think you're someone worth talking to, and I think you're someone worth sharing with our listeners. Could you just give us maybe a brief little summary about what Jacob the Created, your project, is all about?
Well, I guess I got the name Jacob the Created off of your We the Created, what you started, and yeah, it's just basically, I'm a writer. I've been writing since I was 16, so I'm about to be 27 in October, so what is that, almost 11 years, if I did my math right. So, yeah, I just write, and I tend to write just mostly what I feel, what I'm going through, just things that I've been through. I try to draw from those things, and it tends to be on the darker side of things, but I hope that I provide just glimpses of hope and of Jesus, and yeah, I mean it's just poetry, and that's basically it. I just write. I just write anything that's in my head, and I try to get it down on paper so it's not inside of me, and that's basically what I do.
And people who haven't heard you before, or rather people who have heard you before, will know that your writing pretty much correlates right into your personal testimony. With every single poem that you write, it's pretty much, like you said, raw, what you're going through that moment, you put it on paper. How closely is your personal testimony or your walk with Jesus and your writing correlated together?
Well, I mean, basically my writing, it's like you said, it is what I've been through, what I'm going through. It's a lot of, in my poetry I have, I'm talking to God, and they're like my own personal prayer. It's like my personal diary, and I've decided to share that with everyone. It's a poem about just feeling hopeless, a poem about just going through a divorce, a poem about just everything. I try to write, sometimes I write it from like a different point of view, but really it's just I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about what I'm going through, and I feel like people tend to relate to that a little bit better than me coming up and saying I love Jesus. Jesus is awesome. My life is perfect. I feel like some people don't want to hear that, and especially the people I'm trying to reach, which is youth, teenagers up into even up into their 20s, upper 20s, 30s, whoever, I guess, really. Sometimes I know from personal experience, sometimes I don't want to hear oh, how you doing? Oh, blessed by the best. Sometimes I don't want to hear that. I don't
like cookie cutter Christian answer.
Exactly.
I know what you mean. When you listen to any, I think in our area, the radio stations are Caleb and The Spirit, and those are great songs that they play. But I know what you mean. Where every song is like, man, is anyone like going through what I'm going through? Because everyone's like the voice of truth. Like, man, the voice of truth for me this week actually wasn't that great.
Right. But, and I don't know. So I try to come at it from that angle, and I feel like I've been able to write that way very well, and I don't know. I feel like it's kind of my own personal ministry, and I feel like God has given me that ability to draw from my life circumstances, and just be able to write just so transparently and so just passionately and emotionally. And if you ever heard my poetry, just how I release it, and whenever I say it, it's very raw, very passionate, very emotional, and I feel like that God's just given me that ability to be able to do that, and I feel like, or at least I pray that, if even one person is moved or touched by that, into, trying to better his or her own personal relationship with God, then I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, and then before I go too much into questioning on the tracks of the EP that, like I mentioned earlier, give us your personal testimony, like your walk with Jesus. Were you raised in the church? Your walk through your teen years, all that good stuff. If you want to summarize it, but
all right. Yeah, I was born and raised in the church my whole life. Basically, when you're younger, you go because your parents make you go. So yeah, I mean, basically through just growing up all the way up through high school, I went to church because I had to. I guess there was a few moments where I felt like, God was real and I felt his presence, but for whatever reason, it wasn't something that I wanted to stick around for. And, after I graduated high school, my parents kind of let me do what I wanted after that. So I went, but just kind of to please them, not for myself. And then I moved to College Station for, I guess 2 or 3 years, and I kind of did my own thing there. Started hanging out with, just whoever, just, doing whatever I wanted to do. I wouldn't say I was necessarily a terrible person, but just, a college kid, do college kid things, except I wasn't in college because I dropped out a year back. So I don't know. I guess I didn't do what my parents wanted me to do as far as that. And then, I met my future wife there who, unfortunately it's now divorced. But, so that happened, and I guess what brought me back to Jesus, I was just when I lived in College Station, I was depressed, I was lonely, I was, I started drinking heavily and, smoking pot, nothing crazy, but, those were my two vices, and, I realized I was unhappy, and I can drink until I could forget, but I'd still wake up and I was still unhappy. And, I don't know, like I came to Austin one day. I was going to go see this band called Lucero. So I came to Austin with my girlfriend at the time, and, we were going to go to that show, and I stopped by to visit my parents, and, I was sitting outside, and I felt like I heard in my, when God speaks to you, you can feel it,
right.
Like in your heart. It's not necessarily an audible voice, but it's a thought that overpowers everything else. And it's not your thought. And all I heard was, go to church. And it was a Wednesday night, and my parents were getting ready to go to church. And, I tried to play it off like I was being stupid. And, he just repeated himself, like, go to church. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I just broke down and just started crying. And I realized, I don't know. So, I ended up going to church that night, and, I didn't feel anything. I went, I was bored, but basically that moment I realized, I needed to just get back on track, and from that moment I did what I needed to do to close shop in College Station and move back to Austin. And, that was in 2008, and, here, I haven't looked back since. So it's kind of how my testimony as far as coming back to Jesus goes.
Were you writing poetry when you were out in College Station, and even before coming back to the church? Were you writing then, like as much as you do now?
Yeah, I wrote. I have spirals and spirals and notebooks full of poetry, very dark, very lame. I wrote not in the style that I write now. I wrote more just like it's just kind of just me writing. It wasn't something that I could necessarily perform the way that I perform it now. I guess the way that I write now is completely different from the way that I started, and I've definitely evolved as far as writing goes, and into something where I like where I'm at now. But yeah, I wrote, like I said, I've been writing since I was 16, and I've always written in some form or fashion since I was 16. So
when you moved back, What was the deciding factor bringing you back into moving areas? Was it your environment you were trying to get away from? What brought you back to wanting to come into Austin?
Well, I mean, Austin, born and raised, it was my home. In College Station, I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, and other than those people, I didn't really have any friends. Like I said, I was lonely a lot of the time. I was sad and, just being depressed. I don't know, just being lame, I guess. But I guess it's a real issue. I like to play it off as I was just being
it's
stupid.
Easy to
but,
play, yeah.
It's real. So I just wanted to be home, with, when I had gone to church, I ran into some of, my old buddies I would run with in the church, and, it just felt safe. It felt comfortable. It felt like home.
You had talked earlier about your future wife meeting in College Station. How did she affect your relationship with the Lord?
It was great. She, I didn't know, but she, she had been exposed to the church growing up as well, and I guess she went through a lot of things that made her not like the church. But it was great whenever I, that day when I know God spoke to me and told me to go to church, I went in and was like, hey, we're not going to go to that show. We're going to go to church. And she looked at me and just said, okay, didn't budge. We kind of took the journey together, we, no questions, no hesitation. She was just like, all right, let's do it, and that's what we did. So, she encouraged it. It was good. It was good.
And fast forwarding to, in y'all's relationship and then y'all breaking up, can you talk about that? Can you talk about how y'all's maybe lows affected your relationship, not only with each other, but with God?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got married. She moved to Austin. People always say the first year is hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I felt like it was relatively easy for us. We, no one gets along perfectly. Everyone has their arguments. Everyone struggles with their own struggles in their relationship, and that's life. That's just a part of life, and either you stick with it and make it work, or you walk away. So we were married for a little over 2 years, and sorry.
No, it's fine.
At I guess at a certain point, she decided it was too much and she had to walk away, and we took on a lot. We became foster parents. We took on a kid for 7 months in our second year of marriage, and that was really hard for us. And I wouldn't change that. Like, it opened up a part of my heart that I didn't realize I had. Like, I didn't realize that, like, I was capable of loving the way that I loved someone else's kid, and
right.
And that affected my relationship with her, with Amy. I realized that I wanted to love her better. I did I could beat myself up over it. No one's perfect. Everyone wishes they could do things differently or do things better. And I guess just having the child, his name was Donnie. He was, it was hard. He was the sweetest little baby. I guess we had him for 7 months. And that was like a hard time for us, like it was tough, like she's young. I think she's 23, 24. I'm 26. I was 25 when we got him. Yeah, I was 25 when we got him, and he was 14 months old. Like, just jumping into something like that was tough. On top of just being newly married and just struggling with learning to live together and understanding her and her understanding me, and to throw into a baby into the mix was tough. But we did it. We hopefully changed his life for the better, and he went back after 7 months, and and that was a really hard time for us. I guess he went back right after our second anniversary, September. He went back at the end of September, right after we celebrated our second year together, and I guess we made it another month. We made it through October. And that October was a hard month. We had both of our birthdays were on October, and we made it through those as best as we could. And, November 2nd, is when, she told me she was leaving. It was hard to understand. It was tough, like, how do you accept that the person you love the most in the world is going to leave? Obviously I'm still dealing with it. Yeah. It was hard, like it was really hard. Even, some days are really hard still. It's been 6 months. I guess the hardest part for me was just trying to understand, what happened, like why she felt like that was the best decision for her to make. Like I said, everyone has their struggles, and either you choose to work together and overcome them, or you walk away. And for her, she felt like the best decision for her to be happy was to walk away. And like what do I do? Like, I know that's not something, I guess, like from a biblical standpoint, then shame on me. But I don't, God doesn't love her any less. God doesn't love me any less.
Right. Absolutely.
I guess, like I said, she went through a lot growing up, and I guess, there's a lot of issues that she hadn't dealt with, and then just, it was a very trying time. Sometimes I wonder if we didn't have the foster kid, if my life would be what it is now. And, I don't know. Like, I couldn't explain to you why things happen the way things happen, and why our lives turn out.
The thing that about that kind of situation, or anyone's situation, is trying to see God's hand in it all, right?
Right.
Because it's there. His sovereignty's there, obviously. Have you seen, in hindsight, how God's been working through you, and even working through her during this whole ordeal from, November to today?
I mean,
and you may not. I'm like, again, this is unscripted. There's no answer I'm fishing for. I mean, it's a real question. Do you see God working it, or do you still have a lot of questions for God?
I mean, yeah, I have a ton of questions. And I mean, if you listen to some of my poetry, you can hear me just screaming at him, asking him, some of my questions. I feel like, if they're, like, it was crazy. Like, she left, and, I hid it from my parents for as long as I could, like, oh, where's Amy at? Oh, and she stayed home, just making stuff up.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, they knew. And I guess it was fun. It was not funny, but like, the one thing my mom, when everyone found out how bad it really was, my mom was afraid that I would, turn away from the church. She was afraid I was going to walk away. And in my head, I was like, the church is all I got, like, there's no way I can get through this if I don't have my relationship with God. And so I guess in that sense, like, I feel like my faith is unbreakable. My faith is, like, if I can get through that, there's nothing that's going to change my mind about my beliefs, about my life, about what I want to do with my life. And so I guess in that sense, I do have a lot of questions. I don't understand why things happen the way they happen, but regardless, I know the person who created my life in the first place, and my faith will, I'm still standing. I'm still doing what I want to do. It's a little different, but my faith is unbreakable. So, and
you don't get that, and that's what I love hearing you being able to say something like that is ridiculous, because there's so many people, myself included, who stump their toe, and it's like, come on, God, and then I read Job, and then I'm just like floored with humility. Like, oh, yeah, I have some debt, or, oh, I have this, but goodness, God, throw Job a bone.
Yeah, exactly. I was feeling sorry for myself, and then, just reading Job, and then, I mean, even reading someone, like, encouraged me when I was, just going through it emotionally, like, even worse than it is now. Just, like, read the Psalms, like, listen to David, like, listen to him, like, he questions God, he feels like God abandoned him, like, there's so many examples in the Bible that we could point to, and, and I can feel, I can sit here and feel sorry for myself, or I can take what I've learned and just keep moving, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and something I think you'd probably agree with for listeners who may be going through this or problems with their spouse. Obviously we don't like divorce. It's not something that we're promoting, but life doesn't end with it, right?
Right.
And
right.
Jesus doesn't end with it.
Right.
He came out of the tomb. He's gonna use you through whatever, and I would hope that people would understand, no matter what their circumstance, that it doesn't end with that. What would you say before we can move on to talking about the EP and other things? Just encouragement. You mentioned the Psalms that you would read for encouragement. Is there anything else that you would recommend for someone who's going through what you're going through?
Life goes on, one day at a time. Even now, like, there's still days that are hard for me. There's some days are just tough. Some days I just feel sad and I feel like, God, why? Like, I thought I was over this, but it's just one day at a time. It's a process. You just got to keep moving. As long as you're moving forward and moving through it and you're not stuck in the same place, then you're doing, what you're supposed to do. You got to move through it and, keep your head up. And I would hope that, for me, like everyone at the church that I went to was just open arms, encouragement, support. No one condemned me, or at least to my face. I'm sure some people condemned me.
No, not in the church.
Yeah, the church is a spotless bride.
The real church. But us as humans on earth.
Right.
I love that. I love it.
But, life goes on and it is your choice to either succumb to life's circumstances or to overcome them. And there, believe me, there are times where I'm just like, man, forget this. Like, I don't care about nothing. I don't care about anyone. And that's a poor attitude to have, and I definitely understand it if you get to that point sometimes. But as long as you slap yourself and realize that you're being stupid and just keep going. God is he got me through this, is getting me through this, and just to keep moving forward. As long as you're making steady progress, then you're doing what you need to do.
Absolutely. Going forward then on with this conversation, your EP, Growing Colder, Growing Older,
Growing Colder.
The Growing Colder EP. Talk about the writing process for that and how you picked, because like you said, I know you've got a million poems. How did you pick the ones that you wanted to go onto this EP that you wanted to share with the world?
Growing Colder, it's it has 4 tracks on it. Naked, Shipwreck, Growing Older, and then a poem called X-Ray, which is probably the most recent one that I wrote. I don't know. All these poems are obviously just poems that I, that are performance or poems that I've picked that I perform in front of people. It's called Growing Colder. Once you hear the material, you realize, oh, that's why it's called Growing Colder. It's very dark. It's very, the first poem is about, a girl looking for love in all the wrong places, and then Shipwreck is just straight hopeless. Growing Older is about my divorce, and then X-Ray is kind of a look into my mind, which kind of why I called it X-Ray. It's just a look inside of how I feel and the way that I think, and it's very dark, and like I said earlier, I guess I picked these poems because they're real, they're real struggles, they're real issues. I could have wrote a poem about how Jesus loves the little children, and he does.
Which is true.
But yeah, which he does. But I don't know that it would have the same impact that, the poems that I decided to put on this EP will hopefully have, and I believe will have, by God's grace. It's just heavy material, and I feel like it's, my target audience, it's what I feel like they can relate to, respond to, and feel.
Well, and that's what I appreciate about your poetry, and about a lot of people in our generation, the 20-somethings and the generation younger than us. It's so weird listening to bands that are like 22, right, and going to their shows. And anyway, but how real Christianity in the arts is getting is really inspiring, because it's like I do like that cookie cutter Christian rock. I love that, and it's great. I love Chris Tomlin. I love Matt Redman and Hillsong. All those very inspirational. Not knocking them at all, but it's really great when you can see people so transparent as like, yeah, I do praise God, but let me tell you about this terrible thing that happened to me. And yeah, I might even drop a cuss word or two because that's what I was feeling in the moment.
Right.
But what God did through that,
Right.
It's inspiring. Do you think that is that what you're going for with when you do these poems, like letting people see inside of you so that God can reflect outward onto them?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. I mean, almost with the exception of the first poem, the other three poems are strictly just the way that I felt, what I feel, what I'm going through, and I mean they're very dark, and there's very brief glimpses of hope in them. It's a very dark record, and like I said, I feel like that's what if I can get up on the stage and say those poems and then tell them, like, look at me, like I'm standing, my hope is in Jesus, like I'm renewed, like I'm brand new, I'm moving forward. If I can show them, look, I went through all these things and I'm still standing here, I still love Jesus, that's still my purpose in life, is to to show him to y'all, then I like they can just realize, like, hey, like I can get through this, I can get over just being depressed or feeling having suicidal thoughts. Like those are like big issues. That's huge, and just the first one of the poems is called Naked, and it's about just sexual promiscuity and just looking for love, and not finding it, because that's huge. That's a college student, high school, like that's.
And these issues too, promiscuity, the drugs, pornography, divorce. Those are all issues I'm sure the church addresses, but we don't do it publicly. And I think sometimes we don't rely on each other to be the church enough, right? To help us get us through that.
Right. It's like we don't want to talk about those real issues.
Right.
It's almost like the church wants to be like that neighborhood, like this neighborhood, the white picket fence, everything's perfect.
For the record, this podcast is in my garage in a white picket fence neighborhood.
Yeah, like
context.
Like no one wants to talk about real issues,
no, for sure. Very face value stuff. I've been through that. I've been a Christian for like 5 or 7 years or 6 years in between. Let's just round it, and have found that absolutely when our first podcast was about pornography.
Right.
And I got good and bad feedback. But the bad feedback would be like, that's ridiculous. You don't talk about that kind of stuff. Or, I mean, it was very small minority of people that were upset that we would talk about pornography. But that's something that's like, no, man, on my own efforts, I'm a pervert.
Yeah.
Straight up, that on my own efforts. But when I trust in God to get me through it, I can testify wholeheartedly that it's like, no, man, I'm better than that. And the good feedback, you wouldn't even believe how much encouragement it gave people, and the courage to talk to their spouse or to talk to their friends and family about their issues, or to address their brothers and sisters issues on it.
Yeah.
Since performing, what kind of feedback have you gotten? Because you've been performing for years now.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing, like everyone thinks that they're the only one that's going through it, so maybe they're almost embarrassed to even mention it, like, oh, hey, I'm struggling with this, or my marriage is falling apart, or people are almost embarrassed to talk about it, when in reality, I don't know, I can't give you an exact percentage, but I guarantee you a lot of the same people in the church are going through the same things. We're struggling with the same issues, and nobody wants to, everyone wants to pretend that they're not, and if we just get out and open up a discussion and talk about it and encourage each other, we can
grow.
Yeah. And as far as feedback goes, and it's always fun for me just to do the poetry the way that I do it, and I like to yell real loud and cry and just say questionable things, and you know, I don't do it for the sake of offending people, or I do it just to get them thinking. And you know, honestly, I don't know that anyone's ever come up to me and said what I was doing was wrong, or what I shouldn't have said something, or I shouldn't have wrote on this topic. No one's ever come up to me. It's always been positive. You know, one of the poems, Growing Older, it's basically just what I felt. Basically, it's all about me and my feelings of how I felt when I was going through, you know, just trying to get through the divorce. I wrote it in November, you know, that month, and into December I wrote that poem. And I finally worked up the nerve to, you know, that's probably like the most transparent personal piece that I've ever written in my life. And I worked up the nerve to perform it, you know, one Friday night at the church. And, you know, and I performed it. It came out like perfectly. It was very,
thank God.
Yeah. It was very intense, very passionate, very emotional, very real, very, you know, it was very real. And it was great. Like, I mean, when I finished it, there was at least 30 seconds of just dead silence. Like, everyone was like, wow. You know, I don't know. I guess sometimes people just don't expect you to be so real with them and so just transparent. And, you know, I did that poem, and after everything was said and done, you know, I couldn't tell you how many people came up to me, and people that I knew, people that I didn't know, just telling me that either they were going through it, they had just gone through it, they're about to go through it. They feel like so many different people just telling me, like, wow, you know, I don't know how to express how I feel, and you, everything that I feel, you said it. And, you know, I can't tell you how encouraging that is for me to feel like, oh, okay, so, you know, I thought this poem was maybe a little bit too much, and just to get up and do it and perform it, and for people to come up to me and with tears in their eyes, telling me, like, you know, just opening up to me, and I don't even know them,
right? Because you just vocalized everything that they're feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then even people that aren't married, you know, like, someone came up to me and was just like, you know, I had like a terrible week, and I was feeling sorry for myself, and you just slapped me in the face. Like, you put things in perspective for me. It could be so much worse, and you just... The
blessing is a two-way thing, because, I mean, it's a blessing that you're so transparent, and then that, like you said, that encouragement back that they give to you, that's got to... I mean, it's a great thing how the church works, right? How we're blessing each other with our testimonies and transparency, and you live transparency, not just through your ministry of your poetry, but I mean, that's kind of got to be a liberating thing, right? I try to live as transparent, too.
Yeah, I mean, I can't live any other way.
Well, it's a lie if you do, right? But when I'm transparent, man, it's great. I've got brothers now that, you know, accountability, a lot of it is when you live transparent, which I believe is a biblical way to live. I think it's the only way to live. I think you find your faith and your walk that much stronger.
Yeah, and living transparent doesn't mean that you're perfect, you know, and
right.
You know, obviously everyone messes up, and it's... I guess repenting means turning from, you know, what you're doing wrong and moving forward from that. And, you know, yeah, we mess up. You know, I try to live transparently, and I also try to, you know, when I do struggle with things, I reach out to people that I know will help me and hold me accountable and kind of just put me in my place. You know, it's important, I think, just to remember that nobody's perfect, that everyone, you know, I think we forget that the Bible is written by human beings, you know, like Paul wrote like a ton of letters, and you know, he's, you know, he's always just complaining, like, you know, the things I want to do, I don't do, and the things I don't want, I do, and
why do I keep doing the things I hate?
And, you know, he said
I love Paul.
Yeah, like, Christ came to save sinners, of whom I am the worst one. Like, and, you know, I'll let him take that title. You know, like, it's. And Peter, you know, he denied Jesus, you know, 3 times.
After walking with him.
And he just still said, upon this rock I will build my church, you know, like, I think it's, you know, we beat ourselves up so much whenever we mess up, I mean, I know I do, like, you know, there's nothing worse than just condemnation, you know, like, when God says he forgives you, and if you're going to hang on to that and just keep beating yourself up over it, then that's not
When there's a difference, I talked about it kind of on the second podcast when we were talking about evangelism and apologetics. There's a difference between accountability and judgment.
Right.
And a lot of churches, that's probably generalizing too much. Some churches in our country, probably specific, cross the line way too much from accountability into straight up condemnation.
Right.
And it's not a, hey man, I'm trying to help you on your walk with Jesus. Let's do this. It's more of like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. You're ridiculous. I don't do that. You know that, and it's like, no, man, I'm broken. You're broken. The church is broken. Let's walk towards being unbroken for when Jesus comes back.
Right. Yeah, and that's what it is. You know, I guess that's the good thing about the church. You have people that, or hopefully, you know, you have people that you can turn to and you trust. And I mean, when you do mess up, you can be honest with them and open with them, and they're there to help you, not put you down, not ridicule you, not condemn you, not. You know, they're there to just encourage you. Like, hey, you know, get back up. Like, get back up. Dust yourself off. Try again. You know, if the problem is if you don't want to get back up, you know, if you want to just stay down. And yeah, it's definitely awesome to. As far as I have good friends. You know, you and just some people at the church that. You know, I can tell them almost whatever, and you know,
on a podcast.
Yeah, not on the podcast.
No,
but. You know,
every time we come over now, I think I'm gonna get these microphones out. But so, Jake, how was your week?
Yeah, you hear me cussing up a storm. No, but you know, just I don't know, just you know, I can tell them anything, and they won't.
Well, that's
think
church.
Any less of me won't.
That's church, right?
Yeah. I
mean, people put too much stock into a building, or into a concept. Church is every day, right?
Right.
I love this, and I don't think it's my quote. I think I stole it from someone. I steal a lot of things, but literally, I get tired of church just being a time slot on Wednesdays or Sundays or Friday. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not like if I don't live a church out every day, I'm that much worse of a husband, of a friend, of a son, of a father. I really am, and what I mean by if I don't live church every day, I mean if I don't ask the Spirit to reside in me every day or to inspire me, for Jesus to just mold me, that's when I notice that my walk every day is like, man, today really sucked. Gosh, my prayer life really sucked, and my Bible study really sucked.
Yeah, and that's important to remember. It's a relationship. You know, when you have a relationship with someone in the physical, you talk to that person, you spend time with them, it's not any different with the relationship with Jesus. You know,
and if we're
daily,
if we're the bride, man, how. It may be convenient if I only saw my wife one day a week. I might be different. Like, hey, how's your day going today? Oh, cool. I appreciate you. See you next Sunday.
Right. Exactly.
But Growing Colder, we just finished it. That's why I have the pleasure of having you here in studio, not on the phone for the podcast. Do you have any planned date on release? Do you have like something in mind as soon as possible, or?
Yeah, I mean, preferably as soon as possible. We're still waiting on some artwork to get done.
Jacob Martinez, I know you're listening. He's not. He's not listening to this. My parents are listening. Hi, Mom.
Hey, Miss Dewing. Yeah, I mean, preferably as soon as possible. It's just so I can have something to hand out or have somewhere to direct people whenever I perform. So I don't know. Hopefully, what is it, May? So hopefully by the end of May or in June. It kind of depends on the artwork. But soon, until then.
Do you have any other plans of promoting?
I don't know. I mean, I would love to get paid for doing what I love,
Right, yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want that? But, I haven't really thought about it. I'm open to anything, I performed for like 3 people. I mean, maybe not really, but just about.
Right.
And it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if there's 3 people or 3,000 people. I'm gonna perform with the same amount of passion and emotion, and I'm gonna perform. I'm not gonna waste the gift, because there's, not enough people there for me. That would be selfish, and I don't know, any opportunity that arises, like I don't, unless it's like physically impossible for me to do it. I feel like it would be wrong of me to turn down. Especially if it's because I don't like where it's gonna be at, or who is or won't be there. I feel like if I want God to let me perform in front of a lot of people, and then He wants to see if I can perform in front of a few, like a little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
if people are looking online right now as they listen to this, besides our webpage, We the Created, how can they find you? Do you have a Tumblr? Your Tumblr is probably your best place for your poetry, right?
My Tumblr, ifrhymesweredimestumblr.com.
Just how it sounds, right?
Yep. All right, except you spell Tumblr Tumblr.
That's true.
No E. ifrhymesweredimestumblr.com.
Thanks for spelling that for my mother.
Excuse the language. I don't know. When I write, I kind of write how I feel. I don't censor myself, and I don't know. I think that's okay. Some people may get offended, but sorry, I'm not gonna change it for you.
Mother.
But Facebook.com/jacobthecreated. Basically, I mean, as far as poetry goes, my Tumblr, I hope to get a website up.
Yeah, we were working on that.
We're working on that. www.jacobthecreated.com. You can go there, but you're not going to find anything. Hopefully in the near future, that website will be up, and I'll put a bunch of my poetry on that, and you'll be able to get the album downloaded on there. And I think that's... Or you can call me, email me, talk in real life.
And like you mentioned, and I want to say this before I do wrap it up, you do not ask for a dime when you're performing. When people ask you, you want to. We're going to get it on your website for sure, a way to donate to you, because I think people, there's a lot of free ministries out there that are fantastic. ComeAndLive.com, Humble Beast. Right. They offer their stuff for free. And I think people need to realize, though, that these people are doing that for you because, as freely as the gospel's been given to us,
right,
we want to freely give. But I also want to throw that out there that you do have a PayPal account that we're going to put up there. And I really think that if you guys enjoy what you hear and you want to support him, prayer and financial support would be a huge blessing to Jacob, because that's what keeps him able to go on the road, because it's his car, his personal car with his personal money paying for the gas. And if you could even just fill up his tank, anything would be a blessing to help support his ministries. Wrapping this up, we're going to listen to Growing Older.
Right.
And I guess there's no preface. You explained it. It's what you were going through very recently. It is a 10-minute epic.
Right. It's one of the long ones. And yeah, it's just kind of what I was feeling, what I was going through, what I was thinking. How, just basically, I mean, you'll get it when you hear it.
My dad listened to the video that you saw and cried. Oh. It was beautiful. It's powerful.
Wow.
I want to preface that. My wife listened to it and laughed. No, I'm joking. She cried. Sorry, I had to lighten it up a little because I've been going to Awkwardville with you today. But pulling the train into the station, coming up right now, this is Growing Older. It's Jacob the Created. Enjoy.
Working on 26 years young. Well, actually, I feel quite old. I have creaks in my bones like aged wooden floors in 100-year homes. And my mind it tends to roam late at night when I'm all alone. You would think at 26 I'd have someone here, or at least somewhere to go, or at the very least a voice on the other end of the phone. But all I have is this hollow dial tone and perhaps a broken heart to go with these achy bones. And when I go to sleep, it's not what it used to be. I have a king-size bed, but no queen. It's just me. I have to count sheep. It helps me to sleep. Close my eyes to block out the shadows, because as soon as the light goes out, the walls start to creep. I pray for dreams that won't bring back memories of a past life I used to lead. And when I wake up, well, these days I take it one day at a time. The emotion comes in waves that break somewhere in between my lungs and my spine. The emotion comes in waves that shake the sinking ship until it gives in to the tides that I'm helpless to fight. And by the end of the night, I'm just aimlessly drifting, lost at sea with a prayer on my lips and the stars my only light. Barely getting by, but I'll say whatever I have to say to hide the fact that I'm so dead inside. But that doesn't mean that I can't come back to life. I have to keep this chin up. I have to keep this head up. But I'm so fed up with pretending the emotions have let up. They're still here. I hear those voices in my ears from my fears of being alone that I thought I got over a few years ago. But you all will never know. I've grown quite skilled at putting on a show, fighting back emotion at least until I get home. Tell those thoughts to shut the hell up! Please! Please! At least until this service is over. But I feel that devil sitting on my shoulder, but I guess I'm growing older because I feel like I can handle it a little bit better than when I was younger. But when I was younger, problems like these didn't exist. It was all about having fun, never growing up, staying young, and wondering what we were going to get for Christmas. Well, for Christmas, if I had just one wish on my wish list, I'd wish for more wishes, because one wish can't fix this. He said, try this. One hit, and you won't feel anything. I said, that's the problem! I already don't feel anything! I felt absolutely nothing for the past few weeks! It's the one thing I seek! I want so desperately to feel something! Anything! Just take away this emptiness in my chest! I confess, I'm embarrassed that I can't break down like I'm supposed to. I'm embarrassed that I don't care about anything anymore. I'm embarrassed for acting like I'm broken. And inside I feel nothing. I'm so sick of being fake. I'm a fake. I've become the person that I hate. I feel so ashamed. I'm so embarrassed that my life turned out this way. God, can't you take this away? I know you can. I know you can take this away. But wait. Is this one of those struggles that I have to go through that makes me the man that I am today? Well, I don't want to be the man that I am today. I like the man I was yesterday. And tomorrow I feel the same way I feel today. But go ahead. Take away everything. Erase this life that you so simply created and placed me in the grave. Because if it wasn't for your grace, that's probably where I would be anyways. Go ahead. I won't turn my face from you. I swear to you. No matter how much I want to. No matter how much I try to convince myself that I hate you. I hate you, God. For what you're putting me through. I know you're the glue that keeps this broken vessel straining to stay together so I might be deemed worthy of you to use. And you use me. God, you use me. You use me! But you're just doing what I asked you, right? Are these the answers to the prayers that I whispered to you late into the night? God, whatever you have to do, just use me. Whatever you have to take away, whatever you have to put me through, just use me. Strip me and make me clean. Burn away the things that I don't need. And God says, son, next time you say your prayers to me, make sure you really mean it. Because I don't need you screaming at the ceiling when the reason this is all happening is you said some prayers out of emotions and feelings that you didn't really mean. And now you're searching for healing and everything else except me. I didn't mean it. Oh God, I didn't mean it. Well, I haven't been praying lately. I haven't lost the faith. I guess I'm just taking a break. It's not that I want to. I guess I can't find the words to say. I don't know what to say to a God that let my life turn out this way. Because if it's not his fault, then I don't know who else to blame. Late at night, it hurts the most. Late at night when I really need someone to talk to, but you're not there to hold. I feel so alone. I'm so alone. Most nights I just stare at the ceiling waiting for sleep to come. It never does. Some nights I lay awake forever. Every memory, a movie playing in my mind. Every moment, a lifetime. Every picture, a frozen still of life as it used to be. I had a family, a wife that called me her everything, a foster son that called me daddy. But now it's just me. It's just me, a lonely ship, sailing these raging seas with a few cracks in the hull and underneath a few more leaks. Praying I'll see land in just a few short weeks, cause if I have to stay out here in these raging storms any longer, I'm afraid that I might sink. I saw her the other day. The makeup covered up the stress of the past few weeks. It hid the broken heart of a failed marriage and broken families. Amongst all the calamities and tragedies of human depravity, the only thing that mattered to me was my broken family. You said you were getting by, doing fine, found another job, moved into your own place, living your new life. Those first few conversations were so hard to get through without getting in a fight. But as time slowly goes by, we learn to play nice. Pretend like we actually care about the other's new life. But honestly, I'm happy for you. I hope you're sincerely happy too. It's nice to know you're getting by just fine in life without me to see you through. Without me by your side, even though we both said I do. I promised you. Through good times and bad, through sickness and in health, I made a promise and it hurts like hell to know that I failed to back up the words I promised you. And I wonder if you hurt like I do because you broke your promise too. Life comes at you so fast and I can't explain why things work out the way they do. I don't have the answers to all the questions of why we go through the things we do. I don't understand how our biggest hopes and dreams are sometimes not what they're supposed to be. And later on in life, we realize that everything that happened to us is what makes us unique. Every struggle was necessary. It's what makes me, well, me. And honestly, I'm not a strong person. I'm just learning to deal with whatever life throws my way. But at the end of the day, I'm the same weak human being looking for a reason to keep pushing through. But I'm so weary of doing good. I'm so tired of fighting the good fight. I'm so tired of pressing towards the prize. Paul! Paul, please tell me there's something worth fighting for on the other side. Because my eyes, they can't see the light like they used to. God, help me get through this because I don't want to. I think the hardest part was letting go. And as the river of life pushes and pulls, I'm helpless to resist which way the river flows. And where I'll end up, God only knows. I'll pray I'll be a ship restored back to perfection, but I may be just a ghost shipwrecked on the shore. I think the hardest part was letting go. Letting go of hope. Learning to cope with the fact that life doesn't always work out the way we expect it to. Learning that no matter what I believed in when I said I do, I guess forever wasn't meant for me and you. I think the hardest part was letting go. I gave up. I couldn't make you stay in something you didn't want. Or did you want it? Are you living a life you now regret? Did I let our love die or was it already dead? I think the hardest part was giving up. But I think I would have rather loved and lost it than never loved at all. I may have fallen down, but at least I learned to fall. And maybe I still regret some of the things I could have done different. But I don't know if it would have made a difference. I think the hardest part was, well, I think all the parts were hard. And as the days go by, these wounds may have healed, but I can still see the scars. I think no matter how far I go from here, this will always be a part of me. Because it created me into the person that I'm supposed to be. The struggle was absolutely necessary for me and for you. I think I'll always remember that early November afternoon, the day my life was torn in two. No! The day my life began brand new.
I want to thank my guest today, Jacob Martinez, also known as Jacob the Created, for not only being on the podcast, but willing to spill his heart out for us through his poetry and the interview. We hope that his honesty and transparency will inspire you and help you to address the issues you may be facing right now. We pray that the Lord will continue to bless and use Jacob to minister to the hurt, and we couldn't be more proud to have him on our team and to support him. For information on Jacob, you can check out his Tumblr, ifrhymesweredimes.tumblr.com. or his webpage, which should be up pretty soon, which is www.jacobthecreated.com. For more information on the music played during today's podcast, please check out humblebeast.com. Go and support their ministry, guys. I'm telling you, it's free, but bless those guys with your prayer. Bless them with finances if you can, and just check it out and enjoy them and let their music bless you. I'd also like to thank you, the listeners, for tuning in and supporting this podcast. Please visit www.wethecreated.com and join our ever-growing community of people that just want to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ using the talents that God has given us. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and join us next week and every Monday and keep up with the fun. Take care, and God bless.